Okay, welcome to another edition of Buc What You Heard. My name is Gene. You can reach me at Super Heavyweight, and I'm joined by my one of my favorite guests, Princess Nikki. And Princess, let's tell us how we can get a hold of you and any projects that you are working on in the future.
Well, I don't have anything currently going on project-wise, but the easiest way to get a hold of me is always on Twitter at Bucks_Princess.
All right. Well, you know what? Let's dive right into this because you know and I know that's the reason that we have this special show tonight is basically the dismissal of Lovey Smith. And I wanted to get your take on it. After as you heard about it, I got a text message and I thought it was a joke. It said Lovey fired, and I looked at my phone and I looked at my phone again. I set it down, went back to playing the PS4, and all of a sudden I see NFL Stroud on there, and I'm like, oh, this is real. So then I went and started looking everything up, and that's when I saw the tweets from some of the Bucks players, and I knew it was a legitimate thing. So what I'd like to do is get your opinion about it because I know that you have a great football IQ and you're pretty even keel about stuff. But this right here, I really I'll start off with you and let's get what you think about this.
If you don't mind, I'd actually like to hear your full opinion on it first.
At first, you've heard me preach about this all season long that you have to temper your expectations for the Buccaneers this season. I started out before preseason thinking the Bucks could get 10 wins, and after watching them in the preseason, I kind of scaled it back to 6 wins. So I think that I was well within, where I thought the Bucks would be realistically based on the moves that they've made throughout the draft. Now, I know that you've heard me compare Tampa's situation to the Carolina Panthers, in which Ron Rivera started off with 2 wins, and everybody wanted to run him out of town because of a 2-win season. Well, the next season, he had 6 wins, 6 or 7, somewhere off in there. And from there, it just kind of progressed for the better. And just imagine if the Carolina Panthers administration had listened to the fans. Uh, I don't think Carolina would be a one-win team heading into the playoffs. So for me, I looked at that as the model for what a true franchise is supposed to do, showing that patience and getting those wins. And having Ron Rivera and Lovey Smith coming from that same frame of thought, I was very hopeful for next season, getting players in the draft and getting players where they needed to go and revamping this defense to where it would be competitive and give Jameis a chance to get the ball and get the other team's offense off the field.
Gotcha.
So where I'm at right now, I was frustrated at first, uh, but I've come to realize, there's nothing that as a fan we can do. You just kind of have to let this ride out and see where it goes. But and this will probably be the last time I'll mention it. I'm not a fan of the move that was made personally. I feel like consistency is more important than the flavor of the day, and I honestly believe that either way, it will whether Dirk Cutter left or he's the head coach or whatever happens, it's still going to have some effect on the offense, in my opinion.
All right. So I'd like to start. I think I just wanted to know where you were sitting at with this. And I think you and I share the same opinion that we're not a fan of this move. For me, I'm going to go back to where this started because you and I have had shows previously where we talk about, how impulsive our fan base can be, and they kind of hear one thing in the media and they take that and they just like run with it. And you know that I'm definitely not the person to do that. I try to, think about it from all angles before I make my own assumptions or
Most
opinion,
definitely.
formulate my own opinion. So when it came down to it, I started trying to. I actually convinced somebody on Facebook in a Facebook argument, a healthy debate over the whole fire Lovey thing, and I told him, I said, it's all about a shift in perspective. This is how I view if you're going to say 8 wins in 2 years was not enough, I mean, everybody in their right mind agrees with that, correct? But I
You would
think that
think.
it's you well, and to an extent, from a numbers aspect, yeah, I completely agree. 8 wins in 2 years is unacceptable. Now, when we go back and look at the first year Lovie Smith was here, he inherited a team that was completely in shambles. Our defense was okay, needs some improvement, but our offense was abysmal. Lovie Smith comes in here. We lose Jeff Tedford to an injury or ailment or whatever. He quit, whatever the case may be. We're stuck with what the hell was his name? Marcus Arroyo.
Arroyo, yeah.
Calling plays as a quarterbacks coach who had never done so in college or professional ranks. And that season was, I mean, we all rode the roller coaster of that season. It was terrible. There was not very much positive, and towards the end of the season, you could tell that people or the team, including ownership and coaching, I mean, if you look at the last game of the season, they were tanking to get the number 1 pick. So if I look at that season, I almost am giving Lovie a mulligan and thinking we actually got a free draft out of this.
Yeah.
I give him the mulligan because an offensive coordinator makes a huge difference in the way your football team runs. I mean, we had an offensive coordinator in Marcus Arroyo, but that's not really who he is, right? That was just kind of the cards we were dealt.
Right.
So the way I see it is Lovie Smith was playing with not a full deck of cards, right? So let's give him a mulligan for not having a full deck. We played the hand we were dealt, and honestly, it set us up to get a franchise quarterback, or at least what we hope is a franchise quarterback. And we also got, depth for our O-line. Who did we get that year? That was
Pamphile? Kevin Pamphile?
Pamphile, and who's the other one we got? Kadeem Edwards, which I don't even think he's on the team, but I mean, I can't even remember who was on that draft list anymore. It's been so long, but we got a free draft out of this, and we got a potentially franchise quarterback, right? So let's take. I just feel like it's unfair to consider that first year against Lovie Smith when we weren't playing with a full deck of cards. Now, fast forward to this previous season, we get an offensive coordinator. We're starting to see improvement. We had another good draft. Like, everything has started to come together on the offense. And the one defensive player that they've brought in, excelled. Or well, I wouldn't say excelled, but played probably above what we expected out of a 4th-round pick.
We weren't expecting him to be a starter.
Right. And we got 4 starters out of this draft class. So I'm sitting here thinking, let's give him a mulligan for the first year because you weren't playing with full deck. It set us up to get a franchise record. Now here, when we have a full staff to work with and a quarterback, and we're starting to see improvement. Granted, I hear everybody's cries about the defense. I see it too. I see all these, deficiencies in the free agents that failed and all these arguments that people keep using as to why Lovie.
And I'm glad you're talking about the defense. I'm going to step in here for a second. We can go all the way back to 2011, 2012. This defense has not been able to hold a lead. They've blown leads throughout, and there's been issues with penalties as well. And that goes back from Raheem Morris. That even goes back to John Gruden in 2005, that record-setting season. Even though they went to the playoffs, they did set records with penalties. But to your point, this defense has been bad for a long time, and it's needed serious attention and a competent general manager to get in there and do that. But go right ahead. Go back to what you were.
Right. And good points completely. What I'm saying is I see everybody's argument when you say, well, what about these free agents and what about our terrible defense? I see it. And if you don't think Lovie Smith saw it too, you're crazy. The reason we kept having shuffling in the secondary so much is because he was trying to find a combination that worked. He was doing his best with the guys that we had. I mean, we can say, well, he pulled, Mike Jenkins off the street or Tim Jennings for a while, whatever. But there's only so many people available at the time. So going into this next year, let me backtrack and kind of summarize. A mulligan for the first year because we weren't playing with full deck. We got basically a free draft out of that if you want to just erase that year, because I just don't feel like it counts. I mean, it counts in the grand scheme of things, but in terms of setting up this franchise in the right direction, I'm not really counting it against him. So bring in a full staff, have a new franchise quarterback going into this offseason. I was so excited that we weren't going to have to deal with, a coaching change, or
Exactly.
we don't have a franchise quarterback. We can just go in there and start trying to draft players that could potentially help on defense. Because, I mean, some people say don't draft for need, but we were going in heavy on defense. That's just how it was going to be. And for Jason Licht and Lovie Smith to have found the people that they have found in the draft previously, gives me hope and promise that they could have done the same. Now, I know that it's not as easy to go out and find a Jadeveon Clowney who's going to produce right off the bat. Granted, they don't get injured or something. I get that that's not always – we might not get 4 starters out of the next draft like we did this draft. But it's all about starting to develop a team. So when you say 8 wins in 2 years, I agree with you. That's not enough. But if you don't count that and say this is Lovie Smith's first year with a full deck of cards and we got 6 wins out of it, I just think that it was too impulsive and unfair to pull the plug on him. I was just really upset about it. I think that we had a foundation. I think next year, going into this offseason, we had gotten some defensive help, and then see what happens next year. And if the defense was as bad as it is and he couldn't, produce any more than 6 wins or less, then I think that's the time Lovie needed to answer the critics. That was this coming year, not right now. I just think that it was really soon. And that's just my opinion.
I felt like it's unrealistic to talk about this year. This was a year that you had 2 drafts that were associated with specifically offensive players, with the exception of Quan Alexander. Now, like you said, in going into this offseason, I'm sure they were going to address a lot of the needs on the defensive side of the ball. But when I look back at the free agents that were available to Tampa this year and last year, there were not a lot of players that I would have considered that would have been a good fit for the Tampa Bay defense. So that has to be considered as well. I realize that Lovie had a lot to do with free agents that came in, but I just looked at the free agents that were available, and there just weren't a whole lot. There wasn't a whole lot to choose from, to be honest.
Honestly, I think the only person that I remember wanting that we did not really make a run for was Jared Allen. I thought he's on the wrong side of 30, which means we might be able to get him for a decent price. And he's still decently producing as a pass rusher. And,
absolutely.
I didn't watch enough film this year, but I mean, I trust, Steve White and Derek from What the Buc. And if they say, the Tampa 2 scheme isn't the problem, I didn't watch enough film this year. I just didn't get a chance to with my school. But it's all predicated on a pass rush that we don't have. And so if Jared Allen being there, and Jared Allen is who he is, and people just kind of, I don't want to say fear him, but he gets a certain amount of respect on the field and gets fear from whoever he's facing just because of who he is. So he's still producing. I know that they paid probably more than I would have liked to pay for him to get him wherever the heck he went last year, because now I know he's with the Panthers, right? But the year before he was with somebody else.
Oh, he was with the Chicago Bears.
Chicago. I think they definitely paid more for him. But I'm just saying, somebody like that would be somebody who I feel maybe we could have used a little bit more. And it's hard to say because, Michael Johnson at the time looked like a decent pickup.
Yeah, it did.
George Johnson this year looked like a decent pickup. It's just because they don't work out, that's not always, against the coach that picked them or wanted to bring them in. I just don't feel like that's fair.
Yeah, and I don't believe that Johnson was ever 100% healthy.
Oh, no, I don't either.
And you could see that with his play right now in Cincinnati. But I'm right there with you. And I've had this debate with a lot of people today, and people are like, "Oh, so you're happy with 6 wins?" No, that's not how I'm approaching this. I'm approaching this with consistency. And if you look at all the great teams and what they all share in common, it's consistency at the coaching position, it's consistency at the quarterback position, and those are two things that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have not had is
Until
that
this
quarterback.
year.
Right, right. And I mean, I even go back to Josh Freeman, and Josh Freeman was very inconsistent at times. And there were times where he played great, but then there were other times where you're like, what in the heck is this guy thinking? So at the end of the day, he was good. He set some records for Tampa. He did his job. But this is the first time with Jameis Winston that we've had a quarterback that's as competitive, as intelligent. I was watching Josh Freeman on the in the Colts game, and there are times where I don't think he still knows how to read defenses. So I mean, you've got a quarterback like a Jameis Winston who can read defenses, who can look at the line and adjust a. He can adjust a play. He can audible out of plays. That game against the Atlanta Falcons, there were a couple of plays where he just did the play calling himself. And so you see, you've got something special with Jameis Winston. And like I said, getting back to Lovie Smith, I think that he was onto something, and we were headed in the right direction. And once again, it just reminds me of what Carolina was going through with Cam Newton, getting Cam Newton to come in, and they had that 6-win season, and then they kind of progressed from there. So, they built a lot from the draft because of the salary cap issues they had. Tampa, it looks like the past couple of years have done a lot with the draft, and hopefully we'll see some more of that. So let me ask you this. Where do we go from here? If you are GM Princess, no longer fan princess, but you're GM Princess,
Well, GM
what do you
Princess
do?
wanted to make the move
And you've
today.
been and you've been poured and you've had this poured in your lap. How do you fix it? What do you do?
Honestly, okay, I get everybody's issue with keeping Dirk Cutter. People think, and this was a theory I had early on. I said the only way I saw Levy getting fired is if the Glazers were too afraid of losing Dirk Cutter. Now, if that's the case, give him a damn raise and he will stay here. Like, you know what I'm saying? You can give him an
Exactly.
offensive coordinator job, which has probably half the amount of stress than the head coaching job. For
Exactly.
that, you give him more money, and it's probably cheaper to give Cutter a raise than it is to pay out Lovie Smith and pay a new head coach. Like,
And pay for Greg Schiano.
and still pay for Greg Schiano if that's the case. Do you see what I'm saying? You can give all that money that you're paying to 3 different coaches and just give Cutter a raise for a job that he's already been at with a quarterback that he obviously has chemistry with, and it's cheaper. You keep at least the staffing on that side of the ball the same. Letting Cutter do what Cutter does best. Now,
Right.
if there was an issue with Levy's defensive staff that he didn't want to get rid of, which I've heard is another argument, and I can totally understand that perspective because we know Lovie Smith in Chicago, that was his biggest thing. He's loyal to a fault. That's why Mike Jenkins and Tim Jennings and all these Bears are here, is because he's
Yeah.
loyal to a fault. And that have some merit to it, but my issue with having Cutter as the head coach, and this we were speaking about this before the show started, but if we start thinking about 2 years ago, our defense was starting to catch on towards the end of the season. Coming into this season, we thought, cool, our defense is going to build on the progress we already had. Now, I'm sorry, I'm losing my train of thought. Building the defense. Now, Lovie Smith took over the play calling duties on defense, which is another knock on Lovie Smith, correct?
Right.
That's what everybody
Yes.
is saying. And I think that there is some merit to that because as a head coach, you have to be watching offense, defense, dealing with referees, situational
Special teams.
special teams, situational play calling, all these things. You're the head coach. You're the head honcho. If you're calling defensive plays, he can't, when the defense comes off the field, he can't go back there and coach them up or show them on their little tablets. I mean, we always see Dirk Cutter with Jameis on the bench, looking at their tablet, looking at screenshots, looking at whatever the heck they look on those tablets.
Mm-hmm.
If Cutter is calling plays as the head coach, he cannot go back down and sit with Jameis Winston to talk things through for the next series. And that's, I think, what hurt Lovie Smith as being a play caller, is that our defense kind of lost some gusto because he couldn't, go back and coach them like Leslie
That wasn't his focus.
Frazier, right? Like versus Leslie Frazier calling the play calls, and then the defense comes off and he can sit there and coach them up. And Lovie Smith goes on about his head coaching duties, right? And so this is a fear I have with Cutter taking over. Unless he relinquishes those play calling duties, I fear that we're actually going to get a regression. And I hope I'm wrong. Honestly, I'm not rooting against the dude or the team. I'm just a concern I have.
Yeah. And that's a realistic concern, because now he can't spend that one-on-one time with Jameis Winston when he's got to be watching the field, when he's got to be listening to his guy upstairs. And, there may be a challenge that he needs to make. And if he's over with Jameis Winston and he misses that, that's an opportunity that could hurt the team. So, yeah, it's definitely something to consider. And, I'm glad you brought that up, because as I look at the team, what do you do? Right now, do you get a defensive coordinator? Do you think that he brings in somebody he knows, or will this come from Jason Licht, or what do you think? As if this, let's say in this scenario, because it hasn't happened, nobody signed any papers or anything like that. We're just talking that, based on what we know, this is kind of the direction that things are going. If Dirk Cutter is the offensive coordinator, who does he bring in for a defensive coordinator? Because that's definitely going to be
coaching job.
Huh?
If he gets a head coaching job.
Yeah, that's correct.
I think there's some merit to that whole Mike Smith running the defense, which I think is interesting. Since they worked together in Atlanta for that year, right? And having somebody that he trusts like that. I haven't honestly had time to even look into all the other coaching options that we have. I do root for Dirk Cutter just for the continuity with Jameis and not having to completely learn a new system. I would just hate to see that happen, like with Josh Freeman, who had 3 coordinators in 4 years or something. I just don't want that to happen to Jameis. I'm not saying that Josh was as good as Jameis is now or anything, but I just don't want that instability for somebody who has so much potential.
Most definitely.
So I think there's some merit to the Mike Smith thing, just because they're familiar with each other. The other thing I do really like that they're doing is that they're letting Jason Licht make the hire versus the Glazers making the hire, because that's something that hasn't happened in the past. It's usually the Glazers that make the hire. So I do like that they're at least giving Jason a chance, because I think most of the other decisions that Jason has really been involved with have been positive.
Absolutely.
And I talked to Jason earlier, and I told him, I said, I know that firing Lovie wasn't your call, and he was like, it's been a really tough couple of days. And I'm like, yeah, well, that's understandable, because, him and Lovie came in together. I think that Jason having control over the roster might not actually be a bad thing. I did hear an argument on Sirius Radio today saying that why would a coach want to coach a team that he doesn't necessarily have control over? So if Jason put out a team
that's Jason. Look at Jason Garrett in Dallas.
Right, but if they get a team that is unsuccessful, the head coach gets canned over it. It's not really his choice. So,
right.
And that's a flip side argument, and that's kind of petty talk at this point. But I do like that they're letting Jason head up the process. So in terms of head coaches, I haven't even started thinking. I'm still trying to cool off from letting go Lovie. Honestly, I think it was just I really hope. I hope that this goes well. I really do. I want this to go well. I'm really skeptical that this was
last night I was furious. I was livid last night, but I've kind of calmed down now, and I'm kind of in this zen woo-saw kind of mood now, and I just want wins. I want to see points on the board. I want to see the other team's offense off the field as much as possible. those are the things that I want to see. I want to see success. And based on these moves, I don't want to see regression. That's the thing that really, more than anything, concerns me is regression. Going back to 2013, going back to 2011, that kind of thing. I don't want to see this team do that. I mean, the fans don't deserve that. The
No, and
fans
they
deserve a
don't.
whole lot better
The problem
than that.
is that these win now solutions that they keep
They
going
don't work.
back, they haven't worked, and that's what scares me. I don't think this is one of those things where, fire Tony Dungy, bring in the right coach, and we go to the Super Bowl. I don't think all the pieces were in place yet for us to be making the playoffs and going to the Super Bowl. I mean, I hope I'm wrong. I
Mhm.
really do. But I just don't see it playing out that way like it did
Right.
back then. I
Yeah.
think that the corners, we were starting to put the blocks together. And I
Hmm.
think another year, maybe two, like I said, if he couldn't answer the questions that we have next season, then by all means, I agree. We should probably have a
Absolutely.
coaching change. I
Yeah.
agree. I just
Yeah.
don't feel like it was fair to do it this early.
Yeah.
Not
Absolutely. I'm right there with you. My expectations were here. My expectations would have been here with the next season,
right.
and that was what I had, and that was my mindset. Okay, we got 6 wins. We can do better than this.
Right. And,
And
and go back to you and I at the beginning before last season started. I think it was even during the off season. You asked me, what do I want to see out of this team? I said, all I want to see is improvement. And what
that's
did
what
we
you
get? We got improvement. I was happy, even if we lost these last 4 games in a row before these games we even played. I
see. Mhm.
said, I'm already happy with this season. I consider it a success. I'm
Yeah.
seeing things come together. The defense has its struggles. Trust me, I'm not stupid. I see what everybody else does.
Exactly.
But I knew I was taking comfort that it was going to get addressed. When Lovie Smith
Right.
got here, our offense was abysmal,
Right.
completely abysmal. And in his first season, it was abysmal because we had no structure.
Right.
Like,
And you have an offensive
but
coordinator.
right, and that's what I'm saying. Like, we started to see progress once we were dealt a full hand of cards. Like,
Right.
and for you to yank it after one round, I just don't think is fair. And I'm not using his first year against him. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Plus, if we didn't have that 2-win season, we'd still have Josh McCown as our damn quarterback. So, like,
Exactly. Or Mike Glennon. Mike Glennon would
right,
actually be in.
let's take it for what it is. That season was a wash. Let's forget it. Give him a mulligan, and let's build off of this year being his first year. That's how I was
Right.
looking at it. That's why I
Yeah.
didn't expect
Absolutely.
this move to happen yesterday, and it
Yeah.
completely
It
floored
blinds.
me.
Yeah. It blindsided me too. I was up for hours just tweeting. I don't tweet a lot. Like, even in the regular season, I don't tweet a lot. But yesterday, I was just like, I could not believe this. But there are so many fans that are happy that he's gone, and what is going
I
to
hope
make
I
only
hope
and I
they're
just
right.
I wish that people could see things the way that we see it, and all you have to do is look at some of the teams that are winning. Look at the Saints. The Saints retain Peyton. um, Mike Smith was with Atlanta for the longest time, and they stayed consistently competitive, and they had a quarterback. Carolina, once they got Ron Rivera and once that scheme started going, they kept the same coach. Everything was consistent. And the one common denominator they all have is that they had the coach, they had a quarterback. We finally got a quarterback and we had the coach. Now, I guess what they're saying is that they think that they can do better with Dirk Cutter. They didn't want to lose Dirk Cutter. They didn't want to lose the continuity that they had with the young quarterback. But I don't know. I don't like you. I don't want to be negative, Nancy, but I just feel like we're taking a step back. Now, I don't know if you've seen the posts or the comments about comparing Tampa to the Cleveland Browns with
Ugh,
the coaching situation.
I don't need to hear it. I feel it, and I don't like it. I hate this. I mean, it's we're one coach away from firing him in one year. Like,
Right,
I feel like just because, like I said, I've shifted my perspective to kind of forget about his first season
right.
because we actually got a free draft out of it, in my opinion. Like, And
I think it was a game changer to get that first pick.
well, yeah, but we got a free draft out of it, and
Right.
we got these players, and it's just, to me, it's like we fired him after one real season.
Right. And it
I
was
mean,
a
like
positive
I said,
season.
when people are saying, well, 8-24, I get that. From a numbers perspective, it's not good. I
Yeah.
don't disagree. I don't disagree that his free agents had failed and the hand-picked defense failed. I don't disagree. But
Yeah.
you don't think he saw that too? Like,
Yeah.
he saw how shitty our offense was, and he's made changes, him and Jason Light. And that's the
Hmm.
thing. People in our fan base say, well, we've had good drafts. Oh, that's Jason Light. Lovie Smith has nothing to do with it. You know, G-Mac jumped off sides. That's Lovey's fault. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
like at
Exactly.
some point, your people blame all the negatives on Lovey, but if there's something good about this team, oh, that was Dirk Cutter. That was
Yeah.
Jason Light. That was Jameis Winston.
Right.
Everybody but Lovey. And it's just, gosh, I hope nobody ever uses that logic against these people in their own jobs, because it's a
Yeah.
shitty place to be. You know what I mean? Like,
Exactly.
you have to give him credit where credit is due, and you have to criticize him. And I'm criticizing him. His defense did not play well. I
Right.
think that him taking over the play calling was not the smart decision.
Right. And I,
But
I
I'm
had
also
somebody
not
throw the
convinced.
argument at me that it was Lovey's idea to bring in Jeff Tedford. But at the end of the day, it wasn't Lovey's fault that Jeff Tedford got sick or he had heart problems or whatever. That's not on Lovey,
No,
you know?
and I think there was, after he got sick, I think there was something that he didn't want to come through with it, and I don't know if there was an issue with Lovey or if Tedford was in over his head. I don't know what the case may be, but Tedford is off coaching somewhere else. I don't even care where, but I know he's coaching somewhere else,
I
and
I don't think that he's coaching anymore. I
I
think
thought
he
he
got
went back somewhere like to a D2 school.
yeah, because I know that he was in Canada and then he quit. He quit the team he was on in Canada, and I didn't think he might be, but I didn't think he was coaching
I
right
don't,
now.
honestly, I don't even care. You weren't even
Yeah,
part of my team, so I really don't care. But
yeah,
like you said, how is that Levy's fault? How is it? How is it all on Levy that Marcus Arroyo was in over his head? Those were the cards we were dealt. We did the best we could, and honestly, part of that shit we tanked so we could get the quarterback we need
oh,
moving forward.
absolutely,
So, like I said, I was giving him a mulligan for the first year and saying, let's redo this. We got a free draft. And then going into this year, we were going to address the shortcomings that we had.
right, and
Obviously, the
that was the
Glazers
thought
did not
process.
feel the same. The Glazers do not feel the same, and we can't do anything about it. So, yes, am I salty? Yes. Do I feel like it was fair? No. Do I see the shortcomings and I understand the arguments of everybody else? Yes, I get it, but I think that
But there's a bigger picture, though.
there's a bigger picture that some people don't seem to want to acknowledge. And honestly, all these fans that wanted him gone, I hope they were right, and I hope that I'm wrong.
Yeah,
I have no
like I
way
said, next season I expect, and these are my expectations are very high because of the moves that they've made. That they are planning on going to the playoffs, and that's just my personal opinion. That's how I'm approaching this season coming up. Uh, this they didn't see, and there's so many models that you can look at, and like I said, you look at the Steelers, and the Steelers are continually in the playoffs. You look at the New England Patriots. All these teams have consistency, and they keep the same thing, and they just kind of build around it. They have their foundation, and they built around their foundation, and we can't seem to do that. Whether it's making bad coaching choices like a Raheem Morris or a Greg Schiano, which, to be honest, neither one of those guys should have been in Tampa.
Yes, but Raheem Morris was another one that was getting, some attention from other teams looking for a potential head coach. We didn't want
Denver,
to let him go.
yeah, Denver.
We did
Denver was
not
getting
want
ready
to
to.
let him go. So we fire Gruden and promote him to head coach so we don't lose him. And
Right.
gosh, was that the wrong thing to do. And like I said, these things, it's a 50-50 shot either way. I mean, we
Right.
can promote promote Dirk Cutter, and it could be the heavenly hope that everybody else has. And you
Yeah,
and
and
I are
that's what I'm
sitting here
hoping for.
being healthy, with our healthy skepticism, and we could be completely wrong. And like I said, I hope we are.
Yeah. I'm hoping I'm hoping they go to the play that we go to the playoffs next season.
Yeah,
That is my hope.
I'm just saying, what happens if we end up with 4 wins? I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, but you can always look back at yesterday. But like I said, I mean, I'm gonna be as hopeful about this as possible because I want to see this team win. The 6 wins we got, however we got them, where it was exciting. It was a good feeling to go to work the next day and say, "Hey, my team won." It was a great feeling.
Yeah,
It was a great feeling to come to Tampa and watch a game and the Buccaneers won.
yeah.
Where the defense played good. The defense played good and got the Atlanta Falcons off the field. Mike Evans caught the game-winning touchdown. So there's a lot of potential here, and I really do feel that this team is going to build off that, and they can grow off of that. But at the same time, it all depends on what moves Jason makes to put them in a position to succeed.
I have faith in Jason. I told him that tonight when I talked to him. I have faith in Jason. I think that everything that I know he's been involved in heavily. I mean, obviously he's still heavily involved with free agents. We're not stupid, but
Hmm.
in terms of scouting and finding players like Jacque Smith, or
Hmm.
the ones that did come in and contribute over the last couple seasons that were undrafted free agents. Like,
Uh-huh.
I think that he does a good job. So I'm very optimistic with him at the helm.
Yeah, and I'm right
I,
there with you. I'm not salty in any way towards him. I think he's done an excellent job as a general manager. I'm way happier with him than the previous general manager who everybody wants to deflect scrutiny from this guy. And in my opinion, I look at his body of work, his first couple of years in the draft, and compare it to Jason's first couple of years, and hands down, there's no comparison. Jason is by far a superior general manager to the guy we previously had. And all you have to do is look at the draft, and you get that.
yeah, for sure. I'm excited. I'm hopeful. I'm healthy. I have a healthy skepticism, and like I said, I don't mean to be negative. I'm just trying to paint the whole picture and
Right.
offer maybe a side that people aren't thinking about.
Right.
I
Absolutely.
hope that everybody that's happy that Lovey is gone was right. I really
Yeah.
hope so. Hopefully, I'm wrong. I was wrong about Doug Martin. I
Yeah.
can say that I was wrong. I wanted Bobby Rainey, and Bobby Rainey
Mhm.
is driving me crazy this season. But you know what I mean? Like, I can admit that I was wrong.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's like me. You remember me at the beginning, right before preseason. I was saying that the Bucks were 10-win team,
I said
and
5-11.
but like I said, after preseason, I had to temper everything back and say 6 wins. They may get 6 wins, and that's kind of where they were. So I was satisfied with this season, and what made it even sweeter was being able to go to a game and see them win.
I
And
went to one game and saw them win.
yeah,
I also went to 2 games that they did not win.
yeah. So with all the games coming on the West Coast, I'm really hoping to go to the Chargers game and the Cardinals game, and those are the 2 games I definitely want to go to.
I have
I
those on my radar as well. It'll just depend on scheduling. But
Yeah.
those two are definitely on my radar. The one I will guarantee you that I will be at is in Tampa for Denver.
Ah,
100%, I will be there. My dad is a
I
Broncos fan, so we always go when they play.
yeah, I may go to Kansas City.
Oh, I want to go to Kansas City. I want to go everywhere.
Yeah, that the game at Arrowhead is kind of kind of on my radar too. But for sure, the game here in Phoenix is I'm
As
excited
long
about that.
as long as Arizona isn't like, the week before Denver or something weird like that,
Mhm.
I can drive. You know, I can drive there in 6 hours.
Yeah,
So
yeah, absolutely.
I'll probably be at the Arizona game too.
Yeah, so hopefully we can get some Bucks fans up here and have some fun.
Yeah, definitely.
The tailgates aren't as nice as they are in Tampa, and I'm living proof of that. But you take what you can get.
Hey, it would be
But
just
anyway,
be fun to hang out with you.
yeah, most definitely. Hey, one thing I did want to ask you, and I know this kind of the whole dynamic of this show changed because of yesterday. What are the bright spots? Give me your top three bright spots for this season. That I mean,
We have to cut
not
this
including
down.
the whole Lovey Smith thing, but just let's go back to Sunday and cut it. That's our cut. Sunday's the cutoff.
Okay.
Sunday after the Carolina game. So anything before that?
Bright spots for this season. Definitely, I think Jameis obviously is a huge bright spot. He's so much fun to watch progress over the season. I think he got better. Um, he's definitely, how could you not put him at the top of the list?
Yeah.
Another bright spot for me is the resurgence of Doug Martin and having the 1-2 punch between him and Charles Sims. I hope that they keep it that way because I think that just gave our offense some life in times where our receivers were being lazy or or Jameis wasn't playing well. And I think I would be, and I know it's all offense, but our offensive line. I mean, all you and I did last season was complain about the offensive line, and this season we haven't had to do that, and that's another thing. Obviously, oh no, this is all Jason Light. This has nothing to do with Lovie Smith, right? But
Yeah,
I
of
mean,
course.
for to take what was the biggest, you know, shit,
Glaring hole.
we beat a dead horse about the offensive line last season, and this year we haven't had to say anything about them. So, our offensive line and having depth, I mean, we still have Kevin Pemphill. And just, Dotson and guys to share list. And at times they weren't always great, but I think just not having to complain about them was a huge bright spot for our team this season.
Yeah, most definitely. And I know for both of us, and especially me, we did not think the defense would be the Achilles of this team. It was, a rookie quarterback and having to temper your expectations. So for me, I guess the biggest bright spot for me is Quan Alexander because I did not see Quan Alexander starting anything this season.
Mm.
And to see where he is right now, before the suspension was a very big boost for me,
Well,
and it
I
really
think
showed.
real quick, sorry, but like just having Quan and David and Lansana as our three, linebackers, I think, and just knowing that they're competent and capable is just nice, and having those when those three are out there, I don't worry as much as long as they can take a good tackling angle, but like
Exactly.
I don't worry as much versus
Right.
Bruce Carter or who the hell else knows was in there anymore. I don't even remember, but I just
Yeah,
to
and
your
just
point,
looking.
having those three and
Yeah,
finding those three.
yeah, most definitely. And like you, I have to go back to the offensive line. So Quan Alexander was my first, and that's only because he wasn't on my radar as somebody that I saw as a starter or any kind of contributor to this defense. So to me, he's a bright spot. I mean, I look at the 93 total tackles he had. He's second, even with the 4-game suspension. He's second to Levante David with 147 total tackles. So that's to me is exciting. And I know a lot of people were of the opinion that Levante David's game had fallen off.
He
But
did. He was ghost for like 6 games.
but if you consider that he's been playing next to Mason Foster all these years,
I
and
get it.
he's
I
been
understand
he
why. I'm just
and I
saying
just
I don't think he should have made the Pro Bowl this year. Like everyone was mad about that. I don't believe so. I don't think he had a good enough season. Am I unhappy with him as a whole? No. But I don't think that he deserved it this season.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that it's good that he's getting exposure. It's making up for the years that he should have gone and he didn't. So, it is what it is.
Yeah.
It's all a popularity contest, and What can you do about it? And lastly, I am going to say Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston exceeded all of my expectations. I did not see Jameis Winston playing at the level that he had. I didn't see Jameis Winston improving at the pace that he's improved. So to me, that's my third. And actually, between Quan and Jameis, those are the two biggest bright spots for me. And I can only hope that they continue to improve, that they're put in a position to succeed. So I mean, looking forward to next year, which I really am. I am going to go on faith that this organization, they do know what they're doing, and they are going to make the right decisions to get some more wins for us and get us into playoff contention. And we'll just have to see how that works. I think that the defense is a big issue. I look at the Carolina Panthers missing their number one receiver, and they're still going out with a one-win season. So they're going to have
One
all
loss
their weapons.
season. You've
Huh?
said that. One loss
One loss.
season.
I'm sorry, one loss
You
season. Excuse
said that twice.
one loss season. So it's kind of exciting, that we're in a position where we will be able to soon compete. Sooner or later, we'll be able to compete with a lot of these teams. And we aren't in the hole that we were last year because the NFC South was like the brunt of all the jokes. And it looks like this year it's the NFC East. So,
Right.
I am looking for. I am looking forward to us really progressing, and that's what I'm thinking right now. But anyway, any last thoughts for you before I let you go tonight?
Another thing, real quick, we had talked about during the off season about this time last year about drafting Jameis Winston and how much crap it was that he had so many red flags. And I kept trying to explain a different perspective about that, and I don't think I was wrong.
Yep, you're exactly. Yeah, he's. I mean, because you looked at, and we can look back on that right now, and everybody's like, "Oh, he's gonna be in trouble," and you got to worry about his character. And this guy's in the community all the time. I mean, he has more events with the community than in some of the other players, other than maybe a Vincent Jackson.
Right. I think I ranted on one of the shows with you about people comparing Jameis Winston to Johnny Manziel, and I was like, that is not the same thing at all. And I mean, Manziel keeps proving it, and Jameis is, proving me right. So just that was just a fun little side note. I think just to say that you and I were right about that last year.
Yeah.
So let's hope we're not right tonight.
Yeah, you know what? Honestly, I'm pulling for this team,
Me too.
and all we can do as fans is just be. Yeah, you want to be kind of frustrated or disappointed, but at the end of the day, if they make this, if they're right, and we get more wins and we're in the playoffs, we're not even going to be talking about this. We're not even going to be thinking about this uh, come the end of next season.
No, and like you said, I hope that that's where we're headed. I
Yeah.
hope I'm wrong, and I hope there was enough building blocks for whoever our next head coach is to, continue to build upon. I hope it's all there. I really do.
Yeah, most
I want
definitely.
I want a successful season just as much as any other Bucks fan. I do.
Oh, most definitely. You are a Bucks fan to your heart, just like myself.
Yep.
So, with our teams out, so who do you like for the Super Bowl? Who are your two teams?
Honestly, I'd really like to see Arizona win it all. I don't know why. I like what Arizona's doing. I think that Larry Fitzgerald really got screwed out of that Super Bowl. That one that was played in Tampa with the wasn't
The Steelers.
yeah, with the toe touch. Who was that? Not
Was it Palomalo? No.
no, he's on defense. The toe touch, the Santonio Holmes, wasn't it?
Oh yeah. Yes,
With the toe
Antonio
touch.
Holmes. Yeah.
And I was pulling for Larry Fitzgerald. He just seems like such a good guy. So I'd
Yeah,
like
he's
to
he's
see
very classy.
I'd like to see them do it. Arizona would be one. Um, I'm kind of rooting for Washington just because the boyfriend's a Washington fan. So I'm just anybody but the Patriots and anybody but the Panthers.
I'm actually, I don't know. I'm just as a football fan now. Now, with my team is out of it, I am just a football fan, and I would like to see a, I would like to see the Steelers and the Panthers in the Super Bowl. To be honest, I think that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Nice. I don't want another rival team to win a ring. Sorry to our boys at the C3, but nope, I
Yeah,
don't want it.
yeah.
So no, I don't know. Anybody for me, it's anybody but the Patriots and anybody but the
The
Pants.
Panthers. There you go.
And if I had a
And
preference,
if yeah, and if it had my way, Seattle wouldn't even be in it. I just am not a Seattle person at all.
nah,
So
me either. Me either.
yeah, after the 12th man was established in 2012, when they started winning, it just is snowballed into this now. So
Yeah, well, we're starting to snowball with little Bucks fans. I keep seeing new ones coming out all the time. I found a new
oh
one
yeah,
tonight. I'm like, where were you?
yeah, during the struggle.
Yeah, right? I'm like, now we got Jameis, and now you're all in the bandwagon. Okay.
Yeah, and we'll definitely. I'll try to. We need to try to catch a game at the same time.
Well, hopefully Arizona.
Yeah,
We
if
can do
not
it.
Arizona, if you're in Tampa, I love the What the Buck has the best tailgate I've ever been to. I mean, I
Well,
really enjoy it.
let's just hope that they continue doing so, you know?
Yeah, most definitely. But anyway, that's it for me. And Nikki, let's once again tell everybody how they can get a hold of you.
I'm on Twitter at Bucks_Princess.
All right. And you can find me at Super Heavyweight. Please, if you get a chance, go out and like this video on YouTube, and leave us a comment. Let us know what you
Jason
think.
Light just texted me again.
Oh, really? Tell him that the Super Heavyweight says, "Keep it moving, man. You got it. You're gonna make it."
Yeah.
All right. Well, hey, thank you so much. I appreciate you being on the show. As always, it's a pleasure having you on. I would like to catch up with you around draft time and, see if we can put something together then. Also, I am going to have the Buc What You Heard uh, t-shirts. So just let me know. You have to give me your size. Text me your size. I'll send you a hat and a T-shirt. I'm getting them. My tattoo artist has decided that she's getting into T-shirt making. So working with her and designing my shirts and hats. And I want to try to be a little bit more consistent next season and make this a lot better than what it was this season.
Awesome. Well, definitely. And I got you. So whatever.
All right. All right, then. Well, you have a good night. And everybody, please, thank you for checking out the show. And everybody have a good night.
Thanks.